Echoes of Home, Book 1, Looking for Work, Entry 52 by Tsu'na. Presents. I have not had chocolate in a while. It is a low-level recipe. We soon learn how to make better healer food. But in Earth, people apparently eat it for pleasure. Certainly the chocolate husband brought me does not affect my piety. But I do like the taste, even if it is milder than I remember. We made chocolate in Eorzea using kukuri beans, which grew in Lanaskia. But Lanaskia is a collection of islands surrounded by ocean, and the ocean here is 1,000 miles away. Husband tells of places called Jamaica and Bahamas, which are even further away. If I want to make chocolate now, I must find a source of kukuri beans or a substitute. Husband had an idea for changing people's perception of us. He said that normal couples argue, so we would seem more normal if we were seen and heard arguing. We have argued before, but the things we argue about are things we do not talk about with other people. Husband thought we should argue about things that are stupid and not important, and only sometimes. Husband called this developing shtick, a gimmick, comic routine, style of performance, etc., associated with a particular person. We tried it with May. We went shopping at her store together, which we had not done before. Her store had sliced bread and sub rolls, so husband got one and I got the other, and we met at the register and argued about which we should buy. Sub rolls are better for sandwiches. Sliced bread is better for peanut butter. It was certainly a stupid thing to argue about. After we argued for a bit, we stopped, we looked at each other, we kissed, and we told May we would take both. She was chewing on her lip. I think she was trying not to laugh at us. Perhaps now I am more a woman who argues with her husband rather than a cat that does not want to be petted. Husband called this developing context, the circumstances that form the setting for an event, statement, or idea, and in terms of which it can be fully understood and assessed. There was not much of the afternoon left, so husband went to the pit to check the shed before dinner. I shifted to ninja, stealth, and went to the diner to see what patterns I could observe. We usually see young people at night. The people during the day were older, adults eating alone or in pairs or with children. I went by the tables listening for the conversations. Most of them were not about husband or me, which was encouraging, yet not useful. The one table with people talking about me appeared to be a family. I recognized the boy and the girl at the table. They had come into the diner more than once during our shift. The adults were probably their parents. But Mom, all the kids come here at night. It's real popular. And it's safe too. It's not like we're going to parties and stuff. I don't know how safe it is. I heard the woman who works here has tattoos and body piercings. She could be dangerous. Miss Tuna's nice. She's just into comics and video games. Still, you should be home working on your schoolwork. We do our studying here sometimes. I did not understand body piercings. Did the woman mean by earrings? I saw several women with earrings in town. I did not understand why they were a problem. What I did understand was a problem was that we had been worried about people who had seen me, yet this woman had never seen me and was still unhappy about me. I could at least change her not having seen me. I went into the kitchen, switched to Earth Normal, got a serving tray and set out 4 apple pies from inventory onto saucers. Then I turned. Mr. Hartman, can you help me with something? He was at the grill. He started and spun around. Jesus, girl, where'd you come from? He looked me up and down. You need help? I gestured to the pies. How can I make these different? Different how? At all. He stared at me, then looked at the pies. They still warm? Yes. He got a brush from among the tools near the grill and brushed a small amount of butter onto each. Then he got a bowl and poured in sugar and cinnamon and stirred them together. He sprinkled the mixture across the pies, where it stuck to the melted butter. I am a culinarian. He is a cook. That what you need? Yes, thank you, sir. He watched me carry the tray out of the kitchen. I went to the table with the family and addressed the girl. Hello, I have seen you here in the evening, have I not? Sure, we come here all the. She stopped and looked at her mother. I mean, we did. Yeah, I thought so. Perhaps you can help me. I am trying something new with the apple pies. Could you try them and let me know what you think? The man spoke up. We didn't order these. I smiled and set the saucers on the table. They are free for our valued customers. Enjoy your day. The boy and girl looked eager. The parents stared at the plates. I took the tray back to the kitchen. Mr. Hartman was still watching as I came back in. Advertising? I thought of what husband might say. Community building. Same thing. Later, husband called it developing presence. Not sure if the Tic Tac is doing the job that the cough drop did. I don't know if it's a difference in kind or if it's just too small. We'll see. The 6 entry is kind of short too. Entry number 53 by Steve. Flames. Oh crap. That's what I called the chapter I just wrote. Now I gotta change the name. Maybe I can call it reverse engineering. Sorry. Entry number 53 by Steve. Flames. Tsu'na's exercise in community building served a couple purposes. It exposed her to people who hadn't seen her but were nevertheless talking about her, and it gave us a propagation matrix. That very evening, mere hours after she'd served the pies with sugar topping, half the diner crowd wanted sugar topped pies. We didn't know if it was word of mouth or social media, but the kids communicated fast. We might need to try more targeted messages to see how they spread. The sugar topping wasn't hard to do when Tsu'na showed me what Mr. Hartman did and what kind of diner cook has a basting brush in his kitchen. But it was manual effort. We might make 100 pies at a time and they're all the same. Unless we make a sugar-topped apple pie recipe, we need to custom top each pie on demand. Gotta work on recipe templates or God help us actually cook. Yesterday morning, we took some painting trays, a bottle of corn oil, and the Hartman's gas can over to the pit and set up outside the shed. Corn oil went into one tray, gasoline in another. I stuck a short piece of rope into the oil. So, gasoline is made from oil. For a while now, it's been made from petroleum, which is pumped out of underground deposits, but it can be made from plant oils too. The important part is that it burns. I lit a match and held it to the end of the rope. In a moment, there was a steady flame. What burns is fumes. Stable oil like this doesn't normally give off fumes unless it's heated up, which is why you need a wick. On the other hand, I tossed a lit match into the gasoline tray. Gasoline is sort of all fumes, so it burns fast. In fact, leave gasoline out for a bit, and the fumes will escape and leave you with liquid that doesn't burn. Tsu'na studied the gasoline flames. And you want liquid that does this? Yeah, it's used in earth engines like cars and the lawnmower. We do not have a car. Did you want to make one? Or is this for your Winnebago? Our Winnebago. And yeah, among other things. Would Magitech not be easier? Objectionable boast. Hello, spammer. Goodbye, spammer. Would Magitech not be easier? Sure would. Let's just go find Sid or Nero and ask them how it works. Oh wait, they're in Eorzea. She sighed softly and looked back and forth between the corn oil flame and the gasoline fire. So, because they both burn, you think we can make one into the other? Because of the hydrocarbons, yeah. My understanding is that refineries take stuff out of oil, leaving purified hydrocarbons behind. Less purified stuff is called kerosene, which doesn't burn as hot. More purified stuff is jet fuel, which burns too hot. This here is what we want. She nodded slowly. We contemplated the flames. It was quiet. We really should have heard Sam coming. Y'all trying to barbecue? I tensed and managed a smile as I turned to look at him. Hey, Sam. No, we're working on alternative fuels. Do what now? Husband thinks we can make gasoline from corn oil. Oh, like corn ethanol. Thought that was made out of corn mash. I brightened. Is it? That could mean we can start with corn and not have to worry about oil. Sam nodded. So, why? Gas is $3.50 a gallon. Y'all got a car? Tsu'na smiled. He is asking if we have a car, husband. Apartments have a lawnmower. And that's what, quarter-gallon tank? Gallon every couple months? Yeah, well, we just like to be self-sufficient. Out in the field, when supply lines got screwed up, we sometimes had to MacGyver fuel out of homemade booze and detergent. Uh-huh. So, you're playing with flammable liquids in a wooden shed? No, we're playing with flammable liquids outside a wooden shed. Sam nodded, meeting my eye. Rather you didn't. His shed, his bat and ball. Okay, well, we'll just wait for this to burn down and then not do it anymore? Sounds like a plan. He looked at the fire, looked back at me, and headed back to the bar, shaking his head. We watched him go, then turned back to the flames. And we came here because you did not want to do this at the house? Asked Tsu'na. This demonstration, yeah. The actual work we probably shouldn't do anywhere near a building or anything that can burn. Probably someplace with bare rock. There is no place like that near town. Yeah, we're probably talking about a camping trip. She nodded. I shall look for a place tonight. Can you feed sugar to the children without me? I can, but there's no real hurry on this. I would like to get it done. Your list is always growing. Our list. You can add stuff too. Then I shall add finding cookery beans. We spent the afternoon learning how to make chocolate, since it was easier and safer than gasoline. She's got an idea for a chocolate cream pie. We're going to get a good solid start on introducing diabetes to this town. After dinner at the diner, she headed off to explore, and I settled in with sugar-hungry teens. Not sure if it energized them or if they were just more lively for some reason, but my plans for playing Tangerine Dream were dashed by their noise level, so I went with Bon Jovi instead. Some of the kids asked about Ms. Tsu'na and were disappointed to hear she wouldn't be in that evening. I guess she's making an impression. Or maybe they like rebelling against their parents and are happy to use her as a reason, which will also make an impression. Entry number 54 by Tsu'na. Cat's Meow. Sunset is coming earlier than it did when we first arrived here. That makes it easier to get started on flying in the evening, but I would like to know why it is happening. Sunset was always the same time of day in Eorzea. Excuse me. Google gave a lot of results for sunset. Some were names of people, names of songs, places, magazines, books, and videos, though there were some that talked about refraction. Wikipedia has a long page about sunset that also talks about refraction and axial tilt. I think Google and Wikipedia are meant for people who know things and who know what they want to find. I know nothing, so I do not know what I want to know, and what I do not so I do not know what I want to know and what I do not want to know. I asked Mrs. Hobbs this morning about a site for people who know nothing. She asked me what I was looking for. Why does the time for sunset change? What is evolution? What is a periodic table? A periodic table organizes elements based on atomic structure. What is atomic structure? I think you need a children's science site. Let me see what I can find. Am I a child? If husband is correct, we are less than a month old. Yet he knows things. Does that make him a child of learning? He wants to make his gasoline and he wants an empty place to do it in. I suppose that makes sense, since my foam rubber experiment exploded and that was not even burnable materials. Last night's fight was again in Sperry, so I had all of the land between Wyatt and there to map and look for a good workplace. I found a large building that looked like Sam's shed before we worked on it, with metal sides and a metal roof and ground that looked like what husband calls concrete. It was much larger, though, at least twice as tall and many times larger in length and width. Much of the middle of it was missing, as if a large vehicle or Imperial armor unit had driven through it. Buildings in Wyatt, both markets and houses, usually have lights on at night, yet there are no lights anywhere around this building. It looked like ruins. We could probably work there without a problem. I made a note of it on my map and went on. There was forest not far from the fight building. I landed in the trees and walked in. Another fight was happening. Two women who seemed to be trying to grab one another, though one did sometimes try to hit the other. Grabbing was very different from what the grinder tried to do. Myra had said I would win the fight if my opponent went down and stayed down. Perhaps throwing them down or holding them down counted as that. The woman being hit looked dizzy. The other woman grabbed her by the shoulders and pushed her to the floor, then laid on top of her and held her arms. She struggled but could not get up. Tom ruled the fight in favor of Smash Sister. I went to the changing room. I had made a gear set for my fighting clothes, so changing into them takes no time, but I spent some time sitting in the room, looking at my current book while listening to other people. They would talk among themselves, sometimes encouraging, sometimes insulting, sometimes friendly talk that was not at all about fighting. They all seemed to know each other. Fighting was simply a thing they did. Tom came and called for me. I went out to the cage, which was already occupied by who Tom announced as Serious Sam. He did look more serious than the grinder, with a leaner, trimmer body, short black hair, and a thin mustache. He looked up and down at me as I joined him. He seemed confused at first, then returned to looking serious. The bell rang and we moved. I did not want to hurt Stan as much as I had the grinder, but that would depend in part on Stan. Stan was not as taunting as the grinder, not saying anything, and thankfully not reaching for my ears. I might have needed to hurt him if he had. Instead, he moved sideways, circling me as fighters in the arena sometimes do. I obliged him by moving sideways to match him. His hands were raised and open. He circled for a moment and the crowd got noisy and impatient. Then he dashed forward, reaching for my shoulders. I put my palms up and shoved his shoulders hard. His feet did not stop in time, and he fell onto his back. Perhaps I should have tried to keep him on his back, but I wanted to see what he would do. He got up quickly, studied me for a moment as he worked his shoulders, then dashed again, bent low to wrap his arms around my waist. I put a leg back and braced myself. When he made contact, I grabbed his arms, twisted, lifted, and flung him past me. He tumbled once and came up on all fours. I think he was angry by then. He jumped forward from where he was and wrapped his arms around my legs. I did not expect that. I lost my balance and fell on my back, but I did expect him to try to get on top of me, so I got my palms against his chest and heaved. He flew off of me and bounced against the cage wall. I got up as quickly as I could and put a hand on his chest to hold him down. He was not strong enough to remove my arm, but he was strong enough to try to raise himself up. I think perhaps he is strong enough to pick me up, and with nothing to push against I could not stop him. But I could grab and pull one of his arms with my free hand, which kept him from rising. He tried kicking at me, but I looped a leg around one of his and held that too. That left him with an arm and a leg free, and my hand on his chest keeping him down. He struggled with his free limbs, but he could not get me off of him or get up from the floor. He snarled at me, but finally stopped struggling and hit the floor twice with his hand. That apparently meant he was giving up. Tom declared me the winner, and the crowd got noisy again. I think many of them lost money betting against me. Stan was moving slowly as he got up, but he was not bleeding. I decided that was a success for me. He stared at me for a moment, then nodded and walked out of the cage on his own. Many of the men in the audience were staring at me as I followed him. I went back to the changing area and shifted to my Earth normal. There was a man outside the changing area watching me as I went in and still watching me as I came out. He was talking on his phone. I thought he was a guard, or perhaps I was his cat TV, but after I met with Tom and got my money, I saw he was still watching me. I went back to the changing area, shifted to Ninja and Stealth. I came out and got close to the man to hear what he was saying. She's still in there. Want me to go in? I moved a little closer and heard a voice on the phone say, "Nah, stay there. When you get around the back, make sure she don't get out that way." At least 3 people were apparently trying to watch me. I remained stealth and went out the front where another man was on a phone watching the entrance. I guess this was not Lenny. He said something I could not hear, but his voice was not the voice on the phone. So there were at least 4 people. I went out toward the parking lot, looking for a place where someone could watch most of the building. Near a good vantage point, I heard the man on the phone. I found him leaning against a large car. Nothing? Where the hell is she? I drew a dagger, raised it to his throat, and left stealth. I am here. What do you want? He went very still, and his eyes became very wide. Fuck? I heard someone on the phone say, "Something wrong?" I pulled the phone out of his hand and threw it away. I realized someone else might be coming soon. You wanted me. I am here. What do you want? I don't know what. I grabbed his shirt and slammed him into the nearby car. Talk while you still can. I heard someone running toward us. I released the leader and stealthed. He looked around in a panic as the man from the entrance ran up holding a gun. I got behind the entrance man and put my dagger to his throat. Do as I say if you want to live. Point your gun at him. The man stiffened, then after a moment pointed his gun at the leader. I nodded to the leader. Take your gun out and drop it, or this man will shoot you. He ain't gonna shoot me. Then he will die. I raised the dagger slightly. The entrance man started shaking. Sorry, Clive. Do it. Please. Clive slowly reached behind him and brought out a gun. I think he considered shooting at the entrance man and me, but he tossed his gun aside. I nudged the entrance man. Drop yours now. When he did, I pushed him into Clive, drew my other dagger, and held a blade to each throat. Tell me, what did you want with me? Clive did not answer. The entrance man said, We wanted our money back. Perhaps you should not have bet against me. Crazy bitch. Very well. I am a crazy bitch with combat training and weapons. I can fight. I can sneak up on you. I am good at these things. You need to remember that. Who the fuck are you? Did you not hear? I am Cat's Meow. You will leave me alone. Do you understand? When neither man answered, I raised my blades. Clive tried to nod. You will not follow me. Do you understand? Another nod. I leaned in slightly and met each man's eyes in turn. You will not fuck with me. Do you understand? Neither of them moved or responded. That was a good enough response. I quickly backed away and stealthed. I watched them as they looked around slowly, then at each other. The entrance man asked, What the fuck just happened? Clive was slow to answer. Call Lenny and Bruce. Tell them we're done. They bent to pick up their guns. I returned to Wyatt. I met husband at the diner as he was closing up. I told him I had found a place we might use to make gasoline. I should tell him about the fighting. I should tell him about the men outside the fighting. I should tell him about the money. I know this. Mrs. Hobbs just handed me a small paper. It says ck12.org on it. I have reading to do. Going through the Tic Tacs kind of quickly, but on the other hand, they're like a third of a gram each. Okay, half a gram. But still, if a mint is half a gram, that means it doesn't have more than half a gram of sugar, so I can theoretically have 30 of them as a diabetic. I probably won't be having that many this evening. I'm not even sure they work. Entry 55 by Steve. Boom. Tsu'na said she found a place to work on the gasoline, so we headed out after the Tuesday night diner shift to camp. It was a beat-up building in what looked like the edge of an industrial area. Not a lot of cover for a tent, so we set up in some trees about a mile away with plans to hoof it in the morning. In the daylight, the building looked more than beat up. It looked like it might have been a small factory or a machine shop, but something had torn right through the middle of it. The owner apparently called it a write-off, gutted it for anything useful, and left it to rot. What might have done this, husband? Wild guess. Maybe an F2 tornado. F2? They come in categories. The stuff we saw in Eorzea would compare to F1. F2 is bigger and might tear through a building that doesn't have a lot of internal support. They go all the way up to F5. I hear some of those can be like a mile across. Tsu'na stared at me with wide eyes. Do those happen often? The really big ones? Not two, I think. The smaller ones, there's places where they happen kind of a lot. Needs big flat areas for the winds to get up to speed. Tornado Alley. Yeah. I studied the bisected building. Guessing someone got unlucky. The remaining sheet metal walls were well corroded. Windows were up high with maybe half the glass remaining. Someone might have thought it a personal challenge to throw rocks that high up. Slightly surprising not to see any tagging, but I guess graffiti artists would have to actually care to go out that far. The inside, for certain values of inside, didn't have much to show. The smashed out middle was flat and empty. The remaining wings had a couple cross beams, one of which had some chain hanging from it. What looked like the remains of an HVAC system, which may have fallen from the roof, lay in a heap on the floor. A few empty cabinets hung on the walls with their doors open. A corner was closed off with chain link caging, probably for storage, but nothing was stored in it now. Another corner was closed off as a room, guessing that was whatever this was his office. A cheap but heavy desk remained in it. The opposite wing had a long metal work table. That was about it for furniture. There was broken glass on the floor, but it was flat and clear, so likely from the windows. No bottle glass. No beer cans or other trash, which seemed kind of odd. Sure, the building was roof deficient, but still, vacant building. Concrete floor, so it's not like someone would fall or anything. So why was no one using it as a hangout or a shelter? Hey! We turned to see a man in a sky blue shirt, black pants, and a beige cowboy hat. He had a gun, but it was still in his holster with his hand resting on it. I didn't see a badge. His private property. I smiled and held out a hand. Hey, sorry, we were just hiking by and saw this. What was it, a tornado? Don't know, don't care. Get lost. He had a patch on the arm of his shirt. I guessed he was a rental. They pay you to guard this place? Seriously, what's there to guard? Less talking, more walking. We walked. Mr. Guard followed us out of the shell and out into the parking lot. I turned back to the building. See, I was just telling my wife this had to be an F2. Not like I'm an expert or anything. F1, muttered the guard. F1? Really? They can do this? Skinnier. They're moving fast. They can tear right through something like this. F2 would have taken the whole building down. You ain't from around here, are you? East Coast. Guess you folks know tornadoes, huh? Yeah, we get enough of them. He was still gruff, but at least he was letting me engage him. I turned to Tsu'na. Cider? She brought out a bottle and opened it for me, then another for herself. I gestured to the building with my bottle. And they're not fixing it or tearing it down? Just leaving it there? I saw his eyes following the bottle and paused before drinking. Hey, you want one? He accepted the bottle, a little startled when he touched it. He took a slow sip and closed his eyes. Oh, Lord, that's good on a day like this. How you keeping it cold? Insulated fanny pack. Maybe I gotta get one of those. Tuna handed me a fresh bottle. I asked, so how much are they paying you to guard an empty shell? 50 a day. Side job? Retiree. Nice. I sipped my cider and gazed at the building. You know, we could really use a place like this. You want to buy it? Nah, I can't afford it. Well, we've got a line on some corn oil, and we've been thinking about developing alternative fuel. Like corn ethanol? Oklahomans really know their tornadoes and their gas. Like that, yeah. Of course, it's not the sort of thing we want to do in our garage, but a place like this where there's like nothing to burn, except for the part where it's private property. Yeah, there's that. I looked around the parking lot and saw a faded blue SUV not too far away. That yours? Yeah. Looks like a $50 gas tank you're driving around. He eyed me suspiciously. 60. Huh. Well, tell you what, we're still working out the process, but when we get it right, the first two tankfuls are yours. What do you say? What part of private property are you not getting? The parts where it's not yours, but the gas will be? You can come by and have another cider, too. And what if you start a fire? Is there anything there that can burn? He looked at me. He looked at the building. He looked at his car. He looked at me. 3 tanks. I tried to look resigned. 3 tanks. No drugs, no cooking meth or anything. Just gasoline. And don't get caught by someone who ain't me. You ran us off, we stuck back in. Totally not your fault. Don't make me regret this. Don't make me lose my job. We'll keep an eye out, don't worry. We clinked bottles in agreement. His name was Leon. I gave ours as Stan and Tina. I didn't understand the serious look Tsu'na gave me. She did have a concern. I did not see a bathroom in the building. Crap, guessing that was in the middle. Leon pointed south. Shell station a half-mile down. Yeah, that works. So, don't like this slipping off for some reason. I'm gonna have to find a clamp or something. Hey, Jerry. Tornado? Yeah, it was a. I need the camera for the microphone, otherwise I just put it away. Maybe this will work. It'll fall over. Misty uses those bunny clips. Maybe I should invest. Sticky pad under here that I think is getting a little not so sticky. All right, I'll try tipping forward like this and then tipping the camera up. Maybe that'll stay for a little while. Okay. Where'd you come in, Jerry? Leon pointed south. Shell station a half-mile down. Yeah, that works. Okay, we'll be back with our stuff tomorrow and get to work. Pleasure doing business with you. As we walked away toward the gas station, I turned back and waved with a smile. 3 tanks. Yes, this is entry 55, where Tsu'na, on the way to doing her pro wrestling, found an empty place where the two of them can use alchemy to try to make gasoline, which was discussed in an earlier entry. Earlier tonight, even. We could have gotten started right away, but that would have involved Leon wondering how we pulled equipment out of our asses. So we found the gas station, got soft drink chasers for our ciders, and returned to Wyatt. The diner kids weren't thrilled with my selection of Earth, Wind, and Fire that evening, but I was feeling festive. So after another night camping near the shell, we were going to be making gasoline in a building shell. Would it be our shell station? We got to work yesterday morning trying to devise the recipe. There were 2 hard parts. One was adequate visualization and conceptualization of exactly what we were trying to do. The Eorzean alchemy process for making muddy water into distilled water is obvious. You want water without mud in it. The process for going from corn oil to gasoline should have been similar, but what exactly were we filtering out? And how to visualize it in order to visualize gasoline as something that doesn't contain it. The other problem was what etheric aspect was involved. Most alchemy recipes use water shards, including turning latex into rubber. I shied away from this idea because neither corn oil nor gasoline mixed with water, but Tsu'na leaned toward it, comparing the water aspect to the liquid state of matter rather than water per se. I also thought that since we were making flammable liquid, it meant fire shards to be involved, but it needed to be a delicate balance to not produce, say, nitroglycerin or highly unstable jet fuel, at least unintentionally. So we labored. We wrote, we tried, we failed over and over. Most of our trials produced nothing. Some produced thick, viscous, and decidedly not flammable sludge. We kept track of the recipes in case it was sludge we'd ever have a use for, like perhaps a form of axle grease. Strongly corn-scented axle grease. It was frustrating. It was tiresome. I was getting annoyed, but it looked like Tsu'na was getting pissed. I remembered the determination she'd show when trying to get an experiment right and the celebratory affection she was up for when she did. At this rate, I wondered if we were getting a second honeymoon. Leon stopped by, making his regular rounds. The first time he came, he insisted on seeing what we were working on, so I brought him to the workbench and showed him our Olympics and a pink tray full of sludge. Apparently satisfied we weren't cooking meth, he accepted a cider and left us alone for most of the day. In the afternoon, I brought a cider out to him in the parking lot. I probably stank of corn oil. Good thing we were wearing our crafting gear and could switch out of it as soon as we were done. As I drank, he asked, "So, how long is this going to take?" "Don't know. We've never done it before." "I mean, chemistry, yeah, but not this particular chemistry." "Because I don't know when the owner's going to want to come by or something." "What's he even doing with the place?" "Something about insurance," they said. "Might have been people got hurt when the twister came through and they got to settle." "And in the meantime, this is frozen assets." Gotcha. You'd think if it was a going business, they'd at least try to repair it or something. "Job's been disappearing around here. They might have sent the whole thing off to Hindustan or whatever." "Yeah, maybe. Well, at least it means we..." I saw the yellow light splash across his face before I heard it. Boom! I was frozen in place. I took a deep breath, forced a smile on my face, and raised a hand. "I should probably check on her. Why don't you wait here?" I turned and walked, I did not run, back to the building. Leon looked panicky, but he stayed behind. Smart man, thinking one explosion wasn't the end of things. Tsu'na was steadying herself against the workbench when I got to her. I'd seen her fierce pose in Eorzea when she needed to face someone down. This wasn't that. She was furious. Smoke was shedding from her, as were bits of her clothing. We recovered quickly from damage, so once she'd had some time she'd be fine, but her crafting gear was singed. I was glad her hair wasn't on fire. "Are you all right, my love?" "Cotton." "Cotton?" "A lot of cotton." "For the recipe?" "For clothes." She grabbed the front of her hempen crafting doublet and yanked. It was burned enough that it came off easily. "Better crafting clothes. A lot of clothes. I will make your gasoline. I do not care how many gear sets I need to burn to do it. It will not defeat me." She breathed heavily. What is it you called this in Eorzea?" I smiled. "A point of honor." "Yes, this is a point of honor. Where is Cotton?" "Caddo County, southwest of Wyatt toward Oklahoma City." "We leave tonight." "Yes, my love." "Why are you smiling like that?" "I just think it's cute to see you all fired up about this." She glared at me. I just smiled. "Perhaps I will laugh at that tomorrow." "Yes, my love." Been experimenting with Tic Tacs instead of cough drops. I'm not sure it's working, but I think I'm easier to hear. I keep crunching the damn thing, so each one only lasts about a chapter. Entry 56 by Tsu'na. Irony. Irony. A state of affairs or an event that seems deliberately contrary to what one expects and is often amusing as a result. Harvesting cotton should be a zen-like activity, but I could not think of nothing. The cotton reminded me of needing crafting clothing, which reminded me of the explosion. Husband suggested the harvesting was instead therapeutic. I think I was less angry by the afternoon. The matching crafting headgear recipe requires outgoat leather. Husband said there is goat hunting on private land south of Tulsa, but that we would probably need to do it at night. So we ended the day with the cotton and dinner and weaving and some rest before evening work. Husband was on shift at the pit. I was going over maps in my journal at the bar. It was still early in the evening, so it was quiet enough to hear someone talking to husband. Hey, check out the babe at the end of the bar. You mean my wife? Seriously? You're married to Cat's Meow? Man, what's that like? You have no idea. Yeah, I bet. Hey, don't mind me, okay? Don't sweat it. Enjoy your evening. I kept my eyes on my journal. I heard husband settle next to me. Cat's Meow? That is my stage name. You're a stripper? What is a stripper? Someone who takes off their clothes to entertain others. Do you think I would do that, husband? No, but they often have stupid names like that. It is a stupid name. I did not choose it. So, not a stripper. No, I fight in an arena. You found a fight club. It is part of a casino. You found a casino. It is called Twin. It is called Twin Pools Casino Skiatook. You found an Indian reservation. Is that what they meant by the res? Probably. How'd you find it? I was flying around to map. It was very shiny and crowded. I was curious. Gotcha. So, did you win anything? I brought out my money and offered it to him. Is this a lot? He spent some time counting it. $5,500. That's quite a bit. What can we buy with it? You earned it. What would you like to buy with it? Will it buy a house? Houses cost more than Winnebago's. That is a lot of fighting. Yes, it is. Anything smaller you can think of? Different clothes? Perhaps a bicycle? I have not really thought of things I might want. Most of what I want is changes and understanding in things that perhaps cannot be bought. We are married. It is our money. Do you have ideas? Several. You want to hear them? I nodded. Okay, I'd like to send 500 or so to Original Me to cover our Amazon purchases. I'd also like to buy the lighting fixtures for the shed, a couple phone calls so we can get and make calls, a couple laptop computers or tablets so we're not dependent on the library. I like the library. Yeah, but wouldn't it be nice to look up stuff at home too and type wherever you want? I could type here. Don't see why not. Maybe we can set Sam up with internet. But what I think we should do soon is find a fight trainer. We know how to fight. We know how to kill. Have you been killing your opponents? I have tried not to. But you've been winning because you're strong, right? Gotta remember we're a lot stronger than Earth people, and it's better not to show that too much. If we learn Earth conventional fighting, we can make it look like you're winning with skill instead of strength. Some of them fight by grabbing. Yeah, that's wrestling. We never did that in Eorzea. I'm thinking Wushu and Jiu-Jitsu for redirection of force, Krav Maga for creative improvisation, and general mixed martial arts practice. You know these skills? Nope. We'll learn them together, and it'll help keep the game going a little longer. The game? Yeah. See, your fight club might make some money from tickets, but it makes a lot more from betting. People bet against you and lose, the house makes money. But if you win all the time, no one will bet against you and they won't make money off of you. So they either won't let you fight anymore or they'll want you to start losing. I do not want to lose. Didn't think you did. So we get some training in conventional skills so that rather than looking like an unbreakable rock that can't lose, you look like a skillful fighter that can. That should keep the bets going for a while. But there will come a time when they will stop? Probably, at which point we will find another fight club. They will become further and further away. So we'll need the Winnebago or teleportation. Or both. It is disappointing the fighting needs to be so complicated, but perhaps it will make it more interesting too. The game husband mentioned seems to be the complications about fighting rather than the fighting itself. Husband signaled to Sam, who obligingly brought a cider. He took a sip, then studied the label for a moment. I suspected I knew what he was going to say next. So, when were you going to tell me about the fighting? I am telling you now. After some random jerk did. Were you planning on telling me? Do I need to tell you everything? As I said it, I wondered why I said it. Well, it helps cut down on surprises from random jerks. Is there a reason you didn't tell me? We had talked about causality, how everything that happens because something makes it happen. So yes, there was a reason I had not told him. I had not really thought about it before then, though. I do not know who I am. He did not respond. Since we came here, to this world, since hearing your theories, since seeing myself in the Final Fantasy game, I have been uncertain about myself. I still sometimes wonder if I am real. I wonder who I am here. I wonder what defines me, what makes me. I wonder if I have identity. Yes, thank you. The fighting was helping with that. It was something I was doing, something I found to do, using a name someone else gave you. It is still identity. It is my identity. It is something that I am, that I do. I am not defined as being your wife. I am defined as someone who does things. Do you understand? Can you understand? His eyes were still on the bottle. What would I know about identity? I'm just a copy of another man. He laid a hand on the wire palm facing up. I thought he wanted my hand, but he said, "Do you see the little lines on my fingertips?" I looked at his fingers. The light in the bar was not very bright, but I could see signs of curving lines in the skin. They're called fingerprints. Supposedly, everyone's in this world are different, so police and government use them to identify people. You get arrested, they get your fingerprints, they put them in a computer, and if you've ever been fingerprinted before, they find out who you are. He raised his hand and looked at his fingers. If they get my prints, they'll find they belong to a middle-aged man on the East Coast who's occasionally done work for the government. They'll think it's a glitch or it's wrong, but they'll check it out and maybe make trouble for him. And for me. If I call the government to check it out, that can make for all sorts of fun. He finally looked up at me. Your prints won't be in the system. That's okay. That just means they don't know who you are. No one's going to think you don't exist. But I can't exist. I'm an anomaly. What I think of as my life, my name, my family, none of that belongs to me. My only life is here, and my only family is you. He sighed and turned back to his bottle. So, yeah, maybe I know something about identity. Husband had mentioned fingerprints before, but not to indicate they were important. I looked at my own hand. I saw similar lines on my fingers. I cannot say if I have always had them, or if it is only this world's body that has them. The shape and texture of my fingertips was never important in Eorzea. Scared shitless. That is what husband said the last time I asked him how he could be so calm. He always appears calm. He always appears to know what he wants, what he is going to do. He has told me there are things we need to focus on, we need to consider important. Appearances to maintain. He has not told me he has fears. You have not talked about these feelings before. You didn't tell me you were prize fighting. My stomach felt strange. I knew what the right words were. I did not want to say them. We need to talk. He nodded. We need to talk. Is there a word for this? Communication breakdown? No, my words turning against me. Ah, irony. I rested my hand on his. He turned his hand and clasped mine. Did you think I wouldn't be proud of my magnificent Makot? I think I was trying to be proud of myself. Well, for what it's worth, I am. You're strong and capable and accomplished. If I was strong, I would not have tried to hide it from you. But you have been hiding your fears from me. Didn't want to worry you, you know, more than we're already worried. We are married. It is our worry. He took a deep breath and let it out slowly. I think we're stronger together. I squeezed his hand. Perhaps we are weaker apart. Perhaps we are. But do you need space? Do you need to do things alone? You have your projects. Perhaps they are our projects, but you start them and I help with them. This felt like my project. Do you understand? Yeah, it's just that doing something like that and not telling me feels a little like you want to leave me out of your life. I am sorry. I was thinking more of me than of you. Well, maybe I can help with your project? We can do the training together. Yes, and perhaps you can help with the bandits. I felt some tension in his hand. He looked up slowly. He met my eyes for a long moment before speaking. Yes, my love, I would like to help with the bandits. Mm. I don't want to use glue. Maybe double-sided tape, but still, I don't want the residue on my laptop. It's my laptop screen that the camera's sitting on top of right now. So, desktop, laptop, camera. Retic-decking. Repositioning. Resuming. Entry number 58 by Tsu'na. Nope, sorry. Damn, I almost skipped a chapter. Am I tired? Well, it is almost midnight, and this one's 7 pages. Still, let's get through it. Everybody up for one more? Jerry's here. Rowana is tired. Well, you're my beta reader, so you've read all this before. And if you really want to hear my symphonic voice, there's the VOD. But thank you for coming, Rowana. Always a pleasure to have you. That was an indication that you're leaving, right? I mean, I don't want to drive you away or anything. Probably. Okay. Once you drag yourself up off the couch. This is why I start with the floor. There's only up from the floor. Entry 57 by Steve. Tanks and shit. I have an illustration for this chapter. Leon had serious reservations about continuing our arrangement after the accident, even though Tsu'na was demonstrably okay, if bundled up in her overcoat. I assured him it was all due to poor planning, that we hadn't anticipated a lack of air circulation in such an open environment would lead to a buildup of fumes, that it was all sound and fury signifying nothing, like a flashbang, and that we were taking every precaution to ensure that that sort of thing doesn't happen again. Not like any of that's in writing, except, of course, here. I'd set up a Google Voice number and exchanged it for his before I found out we could afford phones. So we can talk about it later after we make some new crafter clothes and give the process some thought. The headpiece for the gear level uses outgoat leather, but I have not observed any Eorzean outgoats in this world or anything similar. The outgoats in eastern Thanalan were massive things the size of horses, but much beefier. You came away from hunting one knowing you were in a fight. The feral goats we found in a hunting preserve south of Tulsa were, well, wimpy. The website had talked about spear hunting, so maybe pudgy weekend warriors got something out of it, but for us it was almost embarrassing. I was happy we were doing it at night. After 3 nights in the tent and 1 night hunting, we were both glad to get back to a bed. I gave Tsu'na a back rub and she was asleep before I got past her shoulder blades. I gotta remember to blow something up so she'll give me a massage. We woke, we rewrote recipes, we made clothes and good steak, and we got ready for a relatively normal life of policing local drunks in a dive bar. Friday night was my shift, so last night Tsu'na was on deck. As she settled in, I asked Sam about internet. Well, yeah, we got the hookup. Never did anything with it. Was going to show sports on a TV and, never got the TV. Now it's just for the credit card reader. People here use credit cards? Not the point. So you mind if we plug in a Wi-Fi router? Not paying for that. No, it's on us. Since when you got money? I smiled. Tsu'na's been prize fighting. No shit. Where at? She says it moves around. Oh, one of those. Let me know where sometime. Kind of want to see that. Sure. And the Wi-Fi? Yeah, whatever. Maybe we'll get them investment banker guys out of Tulsa to start hanging out. Yeah, the bit's going to be the real happening place in these parts. We laughed and I headed to the bathroom. Things always seem to happen when I'm in the bathroom. This time I came out to find Dewey Brower making an appearance at the pit, and this time Alpha Douche had a gun. I don't know what happened that triggered him pulling him out, but he was yelling at someone at a pool table. Tsu'na was already in motion. Everyone was watching the incident, so no one saw her shift to paladin. She was simply suddenly there in between Dewey and his antagonist, all in armor, shield up, sword out, and facing Dewey down. You need to leave now. Dewey snorted and pointed his gun at her. The fuck are you supposed to be? Get out of the way before... Tsu'na charged and shield bashed him. He flew backwards a few feet and slammed into a wall. He managed to keep his feet and his gun in his hand, which he raised at Tsu'na. A bullet pinged off her shield, another on her shoulder blade. She moved in, shield forward, sword raising for a swing, and stopped when I put the barrel of my machinist gun to Dewey's head. I quietly said, You really need to drop that gun. Dewey turned his head slightly to look at me. He gave a nervous laugh. This world doesn't really take swords seriously, but everyone speaks gun. Okay, I'm putting it away, see? I kept looking at him as I trained my gun on a nearby flimsy table and blew a huge hole in its top. Then I returned the gun to Dewey's head. Drop it. He dropped it. On the floor. He got on the floor. I muscled him onto his face and pulled a bundle of zip ties out of inventory. Tsu'na looked on with interest as I secured Dewey's wrists and ankles. Is this where you bought those? I had wondered. Just thought they'd be handy. Guess they are. I stood up and called out to Sam, who had his shotgun out. Calling the sheriff? He nodded and got out his phone. Tsu'na stepped up to me and looked at me reproachfully. I had that handled, husband. He shot at you. Yes, that is why I have armor. That's not the point. No one shoots at my wife. She gave me a fond, indulgent puppy smile and take two. She gave me a fond, indulgent puppy smile and patted my cheek with a gauntleted hand. Clean up the table, husband. Yes, my love. And perhaps you want to go in the back and change before the sheriff gets here? Because Earth people don't change gear sets like we do. I turned to the guys at the pool table. Wow, that was something, wasn't it? My wife was magnificent, the way she'd bang like a linebacker and charge into Dewey like that. Glad I got his gun away before he hurt anyone. Don't know what kind of drugs he's on to come in and start shooting up the place. He'll probably be saying some crazy shit. The guy who'd been arguing with Dewey just looked at me. Don't know what you're talking about. When Dewey got his gun out, we all ducked and covered. Didn't see a damn thing. Oh, probably right about the drugs, though. Another man clapped me on the shoulder. It's okay, dude. We got this. Go take care of Mitsuna. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I turned to the ruined table, gathered up the pieces, and took them out through the back to the shed. When I got back, Tsu'na was at the bar with a Coke. I joined her, and Sam plunked down a cider for me. It's funny, I said to her. People keep telling me to take care of you, like that's all I'm good for. Sam grinned. You make a mighty fine shed, son. And tables. Yep, pretty good tables. And you owe me another one now. But your wife. He smiled at Tsu'na. Think you just became a legend here, saving Clyde like that. It was not a problem. You got in front of a guy with a gun like it was nothing. It was not a problem. Seriously, I added. Out on deployment, we sometimes had to deal with tanks and shit. Anything smaller than a cabin is like a day at the office for us. He stared at me, then turned to Tsu'na, who confirmed. Tanks and shit. Okay, fine, y'all are super tough super soldiers, but no one else around here is. You ain't gonna see a deputy get in front of a gun like that. Perhaps the deputy needs better armor. I don't think the town can afford that, my love. We can make them armor. They wouldn't know how to use it. I glanced at Sam. I suppose we're being weird. Kinda. Thought you were kidding about the sword. Quiet, reusable, easy to maintain, doesn't need ammo. Uh-huh. And what kind of gun was that you had? An Eden Morton pistol acquired from Mordsug and Amarang after rather a lot of instance farming. It was a little like a handheld M16. Classified. Where are you keeping it? Handy. You ever gonna answer my questions? Well, I could, but you know. A couple deputies arrived at the scene. One muscled Dewey out the door as he raved about swords and hand cannons. The other talked to the pool table people who had used Dewey as footrest while waiting for law enforcement to arrive. Sam sighed softly. Frank. We glanced at the deputy. The pool guys were being a patient sort of polite with him. Is he a problem? Nah, he's okay. He's just a bit of a brat, dweeb, goober. Was going to say stuck-up asshole, but sure. Deputy Frank wasn't looking terribly satisfied with the answers he was getting. One of the guys pointed our way, and the deputy headed to the bar. He looked us over. So you're the bouncers? Yep, I'm Steve and this is Tuna. You're the pretzel and pie people too, right? That's us. He got out a notebook. Last name? Your cat. Can I see some ID? Sorry, we don't have any. He stared at me. No ID? We don't drive. How can you work in a bar if you don't have ID? We work for drinks. Deputy Frank looked at Sam, who shrugged and nodded. I don't pay him cash. Yeah, we just really like hanging out here. Tuna added. The people are nice. When they're not waving guns. The deputy narrowed his eyes at me. But you work at the diner too. Yeah, we clean up there in the evening and they let us eat for free. Tuna added. The children are nice. And they don't wave guns. He eyed us a moment longer before clicking down at his notebook. So why don't you tell me what happened? This guy watches cop shows. Maybe he should spend more time in a local dive bar. Well, we don't know what started it. I glanced at Tuna, who shook her head. All we know is suddenly Dewey's yelling at people with a gun out. So Tuna came around on his left side and I came around on his right. She got a shoulder in his ribs and I got his wrist. He got a couple of shots off before I could get the gun away from him. What about your gun? What gun? The suspect said you had a gun. I shrugged and held out my hands. Don't know what to tell you. Not carrying a gun. What about a sword? Sword? What, you mean like a claymore or something, like in the movies? Perhaps he means a katana husband. Or an épée. Did you mean an épée? Deputy Frank was looking grim. The subject mentioned you had a sword and shield. Yeah, that sounds like that would be a claymore. No, we don't have anything like that. He looked up at Sam. Do you have security cameras in here? Does that look like I can afford security cameras? The deputy looked at me. He looked at Tuna. He looked at his notebook. Thank you for your cooperation. I may have more questions later. I smiled. You know where to find us. We watched him leave. I turned back to Sam. You sure he won't be a problem? Not sure as it was. You two keep your noses clean for a while, okay? Squeaky. Though, does everyone think of him the same way you do? Pretty much. No one here's going to talk to him about you, that's for sure. How about Dewey? If they ever did like him, they like him a whole lot less now. So no one will back up Dewey because they don't like him, and no one will talk to Frank because they don't like him either? Yeah, pretty much. Husband? Yes, my love. Does that not mean they have something in common? Sam and I stopped smiling. We looked at each other. Shit. And that was entry number 57. And that was about as far as I wanted to go tonight. If you're interested, let me see if I can find it. Uh, I do have a picture for chapter 57. I have a few pictures. I made a gallery of sorts. Doesn't have much in it. That's where here we go. This is what I have for tanks and shit. Which, of course, it won't show. Crap. Not cleanly anyway. All right. I'll just have to show you my copy. I take way too many screenshots. Mind you, most of them go up on the wiki. Go away. Yeah, apparently you can't right click on images in Wattpad. I guess it's one of their copy protection schemes. That is in the plains in Stormblood. First thing you see when you come out of the gate, like a jump scare. So yeah, tanks and shit. And it is about the size of a cabin. So, day at the office.